All right, ladies and gentlemen, so this one's kind of going to be different. Um, Basically, what I have laid out in front of me here is a ton of stuff. I'm just going to pick you up and try and keep you close because the phone's plugged in for this. All right, so we're going to have to do maybe a two-part video here because on one hand, I need to do an update on my bamboo arrows, and on the other hand, I want to hook you with those and then show you these because I have a new design for a bow that is made out of spring steel. Now, before we get into that, I want to talk about spring steel for a second and what that is relative to the steel you would find in a knife. This is a Bear Grill. It's a good knife, Bear Gillis, and it's a Gerber. It's not a bad knife. It's good quality steel. I have sharpened it many times, and it is still in fine condition. It is a lovely knife. I have used it many times. I have not broken the tip. However, I'm going to show you another knife here. Little tiny guy. It's also good quality. You could hear when it opened. It's good quality. It's Leatherman. It's quite good quality. It's good steel. You see that tip? It snapped right off like a twig. And I'm going to talk to you a second about why. Now, this is not spring steel. This is knife grade steel. And the reason that's different is knife grade steel has to be very hard so I can make a very sharp edge and it'll stay there while I'm using it. The problem with that is hard is brittle in the steel world. Welcome to spring steel. Very flexible stuff. Compared to the other, it's quite soft. You couldn't just take that knife and bend it, but as soon as you did, it would snap like a twig. Unlike this. This is designed to be bent and is great. It's like a memory material. It holds its shape incredibly well. Once it's bent, spring steel will hold the shape incredibly well. That is a known fact in science. Now, I bring you to my poor shattered prior bow. I have been wanting to make a 50-pound, 5-pound bow like this. I started to get this one up towards that end, and it started to bow a little bit here. And if I'd have continued on, it would have shattered. It cracked right here. And after that, I made weaker limbs I already had, so I swapped out a set of weaker limbs that were more in the 33 to 36 pound range, depending on the draw length, 30, 36. 36 is max. Nice smooth shelf that guides the fletching over a little pin for guidance if you need it, and it's a sick setup. It works great. But in the end, I don't want to wreck it, which means to do any of these without wrecking them means using a pretty soft set of limbs. Now, that's not the limbs I want to use. The limbs I want to use are much stronger. So those types of bows, for my practice, haven't turned out to be the huckleberry for me. Because even in a state like this, where it's 35, 40 pounds, you got a problem. Where eventually you're just going to shatter those limbs and you're going to break apart the riser, and it only gets so many shots before it's dead. So here are two designs for a spring steel bow designed from straight slats that were discarded. Now, these are from a trampoline that was high poundage. And I'm going to take a good look at these. These are good for putting the string on and off. We're going to fill this with wood inside and block off in certain places and put shims in certain places to allow it to bow, but strengthen it, you might think. Not so much. We're just going to put the wood up against the side to lock it in place so that when you shoot this, you have a shelf to shoot off of. It'll be like that, and you shoot off the top of the shelf, okay? Right now, these are just loose, but you'll see when I slide this out, they're bowed at different angles, and as you go up, you get this nice bend. So what you do is you start by bowing these and just go 2 inches down, 1.75 inches, whatever you want, and then bend it here to about 30 degrees, 40 degrees. Then come down here, bend it again here, about 15 degrees. Come up here, bend it in the middle, back, across your knee, and give the other side an identical set of bends. And what you'll find is you have induced a spring through the bending in a spring. And that has drastically increased it. Plus, we've done that twice. So, when I flip this on its side and I start to put it in position, you'll feel that it locks this in a little bit and pushes these closer together. That is by intent. Then when it is bowed, it'll complete that package and lock everything in place. Once the wood block is in place and all this stuff, have got to be done. But once it's done, it's going to be really sweet. I have already tested these. And what's neat is you can bow it one way, use it, and this one will be the same as the other one, 33 to 36, right in that ballpark. This one is looking 40 to 45 at its back end. It should be right around that 45 mark. You might think, hell no. This one is noticeably stronger, much, much stronger. This one, if I take it and bend it, it bends fairly easy. This one doesn't in hand. It takes more pressure to start the process, which means that one's more like a 23 pound, 24 pound bow minimum when you start to draw it. This one will start at about 30 or 25 minimum, and that one starts 22, 23 and stack pretty smoothly. And then as soon as you get to where this bend locks in and it starts to bend back against itself, it'll quickly build to about a 40-pound bow. That's really nice. That's going to be a really nice bow for launching the lighter arrows that I have. Then we got this guy, which is kind of its more advanced cousin, because unlike the other, it's bent here, but these are bent at different angles, so it furthers the effect. These are also bent. They look the same. You can see here, they're actually bent in different locations, and it strengthens it even further. And this one was bent significantly, and then this one wasn't. They were actually put together straight, and then this one was forced into place to match this one, so it would bend naturally in the location that it had an inclination to. And I did that on both ends, and it came out pretty much the same. But you can see what I'm talking about how these ends are offset pretty significantly when you look at where one is bowed versus where the other is bowed. In some places, it's quite significant. But because of that, I thought that this one really wasn't going to bow evenly and it wasn't going to work well. But it was a prototype. And when I set it up and actually bowed it, it actually bows very well. And you'll see as soon as you lock it, all those come out and it's just more strength. And because there's this offset in the bottom, but not in the top, what it does is it makes the top a little softer, but there's still an offset. It's just not as severe. And then when you look at the other end of this, which is essentially meant to be the stronger end, these two bends are perfect to each other, but then there's a whole another system of bends here where these two are very much offset, and it creates a spring tension here. So it puts a spring in different places and makes these bows slightly differently. It turned out to be perfect for having the top and bottom limb bows slightly different. It also increased the overall tension with all these extra bends and makes this one noticeably stronger than the other one. I'm guessing this one will start right around the 50-pound mark when you get into the normal draw range of about 26 inches. And by the time you get to the back of it, you'll be looking at 56, 58, maybe as high as 60 pounds. And I really like that. The other thing I really like is where this one starts its minimum tension probably right around 28, 30 pounds. This one will start its minimum tension right around 33 to 35. It's like where this one starts to get to in its mid-range, this one is at its early point, and it just extends from there. They have an identical feel when they're bowed too. They bow really evenly, really smoothly, really precisely. They release well and spring back to position well. And what's really cool, the coolest part, is that's the specs of them flipped this way. Now you can bow them the other direction. And when you bow them the other direction, this becomes a 50-pound bow, but just barely. And its minimum tension jumps to like the 33-pound mark, and it's like a 33 to 50-pound bow. This one jumps to like a 45 to 65-pound bow, or 50 to 65. It would feel like, but it's not. It's more like 40, 41, 42 at the initial, but it's strong right away. As soon as you go to bow it, you'll know you're pulling a light war bow. It's pretty strong. And it should build right around to 65, 70 pounds. This one is really looking to be my favorite in both directions. If it comes up as springy as I think, it'll fire the really light arrows really, really well. And then you can just flip the string around. Same length string. That's how they're designed. And they both feature the same design, guys. They are different. But honestly, I've tried some other configurations, and these are the two that I came up with that work the best and give nice strength without being too strong. I can make them stronger, but they start to rip apart the riser. So I'm going to continue to work with these. These are looking incredibly promising. In fact, they have a lot more promise than this. They'll be more stable, more accurate, more reliable. Yo, I'm in. Keith out.